I am an ever so grateful and albeit sometimes impatient believer of Jesus. I live in recovery from a decade of alcoholism, and Jesus and I are working on life, patience, and seeking Him first in all things. And my name is Sara. I wanted to shave time off my testimony by giving you guys a song. Um, this song is very, it's a very nice little song. And it's called Belovedness. And a lot of my story is about losing myself and finding myself again. So I thought this would be a great addition to the evening. So I hope you enjoy. You've owned your fear and all your self-loathing. You've owned the voices inside of your head. You've owned the shame and reproach of your failure. It's time to own your belovedness. You've owned your past and how it's defined you. You've owned everything everybody else says. It's time to hear what your Father has spoken. It's time to own your belovedness. 'Cause He says you're mine. I smiled when I made you. I find you beautiful in every way. My love for you is fierce and unending. I'll come to find you, whatever it takes, my beloved. You've owned the mess you see in the mirror. You've owned the lies that you just aren't enough. You've been so blinded by all your comparing. It's time to own your belovedness. 'Cause He says you're mine. I smiled when I made you. I find you beautiful in every way. My love for you is deep and unending. I'll come to find you, whatever it takes, my beloved. You are completely loved and fully known. Beloved, believe He died to make your heart His home. 'Cause He says you're mine. I smiled when I made you. I find you beautiful in every way. My love for you is fierce and unending. I'll come to find you, whatever it takes. He says you're mine. I smiled when I made you. I find you beautiful in every way. My love for you is fierce and unending. I'll come to find you, whatever it takes, my beloved. 'Cause He says you're mine. Smiled when I made you. I find you beautiful in every way. My love for you is fierce and unending. I'll come to find you, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, my beloved. No, that's it's by Sarah Kroger. I think she did it like 4 or 5 years ago or something. Yeah, it came into my life at a very precious time, so I thought that it would be a great opening for this. Uh, Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Oh, look at that. I know how to use the clicker. All right. Um, my story is filled with bad choices, broken pieces, and a lot of hurt. It's also filled with a major comeback, freedom in my life, and peace in my soul, and a savior that restored everything. In my 20s, I began to run to alcohol to numb my pain. Alcohol made me feel nothing and at the same time everything. And that juxtaposition made me feel like I was in control of my emotions. I lost my self worth and identity in the pursuit of a substance that I desperately wanted to escape. In the end, it took God working refinement in me to release me from this bondage that I was in and to bring me back to his will and what his view of me was. What I thought was my plan was going to be nothing compared to what God's plan was for my life. He has so much more in store for me than I can imagine. And though the journey is difficult, we know that difficult roads can lead to beautiful destinations. Growing up, I lived in an unstable, almost nomadic life. Um, sorry. I was the only child in a single parent home. I knew about my dad, but I had never met him until I was 16. My mom suffered from multiple sclerosis and fibromyalgia, and she was very sick and in constant pain. At 6 years old, I was already learning to make my own meals and to get to school by myself when she was sick. We moved several times, and I was bounced to different schools so often. I was always the new girl, and I found it hard to fit in, or make any friends for that matter. I was a lot taller than the other students, and my classmates thought that I was held back a grade because I was much taller than them. And so they would call me stupid and put me down. And so that just drove me to become academically talented. I read ahead and I did the things and I became a natural academic. Um, since I couldn't make friends at school, my mom became my best friend. She taught me good morals and lessons that were well beyond my age, but ones that I held on to for my entire life. Um, yeah, these are some of the few pictures that I have of us together. Um, and then me being absolutely stoic in my JK picture. Um, when I was 9, we moved to this little town in the Ottawa Valley where I had friends and where I became closer with my family and made friends. And I began to make lasting friendships, most of which I still have today. But even with the support of friends, my mom's condition wasn't improving, and a lot of times when I knew she wasn't well, I would fake sick to stay home from school and take care of her. When I was 12, I woke up and found my mom unresponsive and not breathing. She passed away at 46. That day is one that's ingrained into my memory that I will never get out of. Um, and that day, her death took a piece of me, and it was really what was left of my childhood. My life was upside down, and I moved in with my guardians. And I went from being an only child with one parent to two parents and being the older sister to two boys. This stressed me out in ways I couldn't understand. It was stressful to the point where I learned to cover my emotions because they weren't accepted. I learned to suck it up, and at age 13, I was already contemplating suicide. I found school and friends to be an escape from this stress, and I became more social, which led me to join a youth group at the Pentecostal church in town. I loved this church. I heard the gospel of Jesus in a way that I had never understood before. The youth group taught me so much, and at 14, I gave my life to Christ. I surrendered everything over to him as I knew he had great plans for me. That was actually 21 years ago this past Friday. Church and school became a place of escape, and I can still say that high school was the best time of my life. But my home life was a nightmare. Both my guardians were alcoholics and sufferers from generational trauma, and I lived with constant instability. I didn't receive the same love and support from them as I did with my mom, and I was made to feel like an orphan, unwanted, and disposable. I felt so useless. I felt like a burden. I was emotionally, physically, and verbally abused, and eventually sexually abused and assaulted. I began to engage in self-harm, and twice in my time there I attempted suicide. A new, fresh, exciting world was in front of me as I headed to Waterloo for university. School was amazing. I made friends. I did really well socially and academically. Eventually, between grades and my mental health and lack of financial support, I had to drop out. I began working full-time, and alcohol became a more regular part of my life. My relationship at the time was just weekends of partying and drinking together. At first, when I started working, I only drank after stressful shifts, then any shift, then it was every shift. Alcohol made me feel better. It was the friend that I could go to calm me in a place that I was lonely. At one point, I was blacking out every night for almost 8 months. I would work from 6 to 2, start drinking at 4, and not remember getting home, and then manage to show up for my 6 a.m. shift. I was living from paycheck to paycheck and had to begin stealing from friends to hold up my lifestyle. A friend directed me to a small church where the pastors encouraged me not to continue this behavior. I joined their church and found a family in the congregation, and the pastors became the parents I always needed. But I didn't stop drinking. Instead of clubs and parties, I opted for the social life at the bar and drinking on my own. It was a very lonely life. I cried in private and hid trauma and pain beneath empty bottles and fake smiles. Addiction and the despair it came with put me in places I never thought I would go. Several times I offered myself to men for drinks or for money. I entered a relationship that was emotionally manipulative and physically abusive that has left me with physical issues to this day. I lost a lot of my dignity and pride in trying to fill a void that I didn't understand where I could find the missing piece. At 25, I suffered a miscarriage that left me traumatized and helpless. I was so consumed in myself and alcohol that I didn't even know I was pregnant until it was happening. A week later, I was fighting an aggressive infection that put me into septic shock, fighting for my life. But even this didn't change anything. Once I was a week out of hospital, I was drinking again. I couldn't function without alcohol and was daily drinking to excess. I continued to attend and serve at church while hiding my addiction. I began stealing money from the family I lived with in order to keep up with my lifestyle and stashed my empties in the closet and under the bed. I was so deep into this hole I kept digging that every night I drank, I hoped I'd die. Because I wanted out and I knew no other way. I tried on my own so many times to get sober by stopping that I knew I wasn't capable of being sober on my own. I prayed either to die or wake up instantly healed, and neither of those happened. Shame kept me prisoner. I felt like if I were to tell the truth, everyone would walk out of my life. Eventually, the time came where I was found out. My pastors and friends set up an intervention, and the empties in my room had been found. I listened as my friends spoke their concerns and heard their hearts wanting to help me. That day, we cleaned out my room of over 130 empty liquor and wine bottles. I kept sneaking wine into the house and was caught multiple times. Nothing changed. Finally, it was the last straw. I was packed up and sent to live in a shelter, and the veneer of my life fell away to rock bottom. This could not be my life. How did I get here? Where was that optimistic girl who had the whole world in front of her? Where was that smile that could lighten up a room? That girl was gone, and in the mirror there was a stranger. I entered Teen Challenge in August of 2019 and graduated the program. I began working for the ministry and gained a reputation of being a hard worker and passionate about my job. However, even with the success in sobriety over a number of years, stress, emotional battles, and unsurrendered hurts crept in. I relapsed in an out-of-province work assignment and entered treatment before returning to work. Even with that second chance and a year and a half of clean time, my mishandling of life, anxiety, and a lack of passion in recovery brought me into a relapse that took me back to full-blown dependence in alcohol. The season I went through following was the biggest wake-up in recovery that I've ever had. I attended a 6-month program at Windsor Life Center, and there God put me through a lesson or two on trust, surrender, rigorous honesty, and refinement. God pulled me from the mire that I had been living in emotionally and set me back on the rock of His truth, the truth of who I am in Him and not myself. Zechariah 1:3 says, "Return to me, declares the Lord, and I will return to you." Ephesians 1:7, Since we are now joined to Christ, we have been given the treasures of redemption by his blood, the total cancellation of our sins, all because of the cascading riches of his grace. I'm daily surrendering my wants and hurts and working my recovery harder and more passionately than ever before. As of February 21st, 2025, I am a year sober again, and I am living sober and living my life without the need for alcohol, and I have 3 one-year medallions, not because I failed 3 times, but because I chose to get back up. Each day is a choice that I have to make not to pick up, not to give in. Have you guys gone to a corner store lately? Have you guys been to a gas station? I have about 2 places I can shop now that don't sell alcohol. There were chocolates at the dollar store this past Christmas that did actually have 5% Baileys in them. It's not easy, guys. I thought that recovery was going to be easy, but at this rate, um, alcohol is more difficult to avoid than a traffic jam. That's the way that it is right now. Um, I'm a math nerd and a physics nerd and a science nerd. I'm the nerd. The ladies know I'm a nerd. Thank you. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? Not in recovery. I expected recovery to be a linear journey. But it's really not it's not like that with point A to point B. To paraphrase Doctor Who for the rest of you geeks and nerds out there, people assume that time, in this case recovery, is a strict progression of cause and effect. But actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. Define the goal, start, doubt, learn, fail, practice, feel lost, understand, have problems, and achieve it. I kind of got stuck around the fail part for a long time, and the practice, and then went back down to fail. Felt lost for a while. Then you get the revelation. And this is exactly what, when I saw this come up, it wasn't even about recovery when I saw this come up, and I'm like, I gotta nab that. I need that. Recovery is not a one and done. There's so much work to do. I did step study here at CR, and if you haven't, and you're on the fence, consider this your sign to get off the fence and sign up for the next round. Janet and Jonathan did not put me up to this, and I did not get paid to endorse this. There is so much to learn about how the steps work in your life and how God is using them each day to bring you through, and step study is a major, major part of your recovery. If you're like me and you read the steps at the beginning of a meeting and you think, okay, I'm at 5, I don't have to think about the first 4. You do. Daily, I wake up and recognize that I am 100% powerless over alcohol. I recognize that I cannot do this on my own. I know I have to turn to God, and I know I have to surrender my life to his will. That's before I've even gotten out of bed. And I go through those 3 probably 4 or 5 times a day. I took a deep personal inventory more than once, and I'm not saying that I do that daily, but the things that I learned while doing that step, I carry with me each day. The amends that I've made, I appreciate each day. All of the things that have been done still feed what I'm doing, to where I'm carrying the message of freedom and practicing the principles in all my affairs. For me, I didn't know what I was in for in recovery. Don't think that was going to be the next one, but it's okay. For me, like, the goal isn't to just be clean. I thought the goal was to be clean, but it's to love yourself enough that you don't need to get high. When my mindset changed and I saw the beauty of life without substance, it was amazing what God would show me. What people think sobriety is not drinking, but what it really is doing the work, having self-recognition, rest and recovery, financial wellness, educating yourself, setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care. The list continues. Changing unaligned patterns was a huge one for me. knowing where my pitfalls were, having people show me my blind spots, all of those things brought me into a place where I was able to find a place of rest where I could keep moving forward without having to be constantly um, in conflict with the people and the things around me. In the end, my life is so much more complete without alcohol. I've learned the value of one day at a time, one moment at a time. The serenity prayer broken down into its fundamental concepts holds such value in my life. I find myself at times meditating on one piece, and yes, at times I'm doing that with a grudge. There are days where it's just like, accepting hardship is pathway to peace. But when I meditate on those little pieces, and I stop and wait for God to bring me through those moments, and I trust Him to bring me through, I get more of a grasp on recovery than I ever thought possible. At first, sober life seemed unnatural. I wondered what life could possibly be without ever taking a drink, but the longer I was in it, the more natural this way of life seemed. And as I kept going, and as I kept working and learning and digging deeper, it just became so much more natural to me. This is what makes my life beautiful. I know it seems simple, but she has been the most patient and most adoring creature I have in my life. Um, she and I have gone through it all together, but my girl Blair is my girl. It's little things like this that God just continues to show me how He's blessing me, because it's things like this that are the little things that I cherish closer and harder than any big thing. Um, it could be I could be having to move to a lesser place than I currently have, and as long as she's with me, I'm happy. It's the little things that God has blessed me with, and He's kept bringing her back to me, no matter what, no matter what is happening. Next slide. This was big for me. To whom it may concern, don't let the hard days win. You're gonna have hard days. You're gonna have days where it feels like there's no point whatsoever, but you have a purpose. You have to get up. You have to take that next step. Tiptoe if you must, take a step. Call somebody, call a friend, call one of your CR brothers or sisters. Take that step. Call your sponsor if you have one. If you don't have one, hey, look at you guys go. You're such fast learners. Because sometimes today's progress is going to feel like this, but when you look back on the year, that's what you're actually looking at. Don't don't sweat the small stuff, and don't make it seem like just because you're not running a marathon at this point, or you're not picking up your 2 or 3 year chip, that you haven't made progress. I can't tell you that one event was the main catalyst for addiction in my life, and I didn't wake up one day and become a full-blown alcoholic. I slipped into it slowly. I used alcohol to deal with stress, pain, anger, sadness, joy, and triumph. But it was a steady decline into an abyss that I was unable to get out of on my own. I could blame a number of different things, but the one thing that matters is the choices I made. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Psalm 37, 23, 24. The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in Him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with His hand. When I look at my past, I don't regret it, nor do I wish to shut the door on it. I could have been picking up a 6-year chip in August. I went to Teen Challenge in 2019. It's 2025. I could be picking up a 6-year chip in a couple of months. But I'd never trade my 3 1-years again for a 6-year. Because of all of the lessons I've learned and reaching them, these were the turns and lessons and stepping stone that made me come to where I am today. I cling to God daily in my recovery because He's truly the only way to freedom. And I really hope that I was able to bless you guys with that tonight. And I hope that you guys are constantly just digging into your steps, dig into your word, join a step study. Guys, make a small group. Like if you guys make a home group, by all means, like do something where you are communing with other people who are like-minded. Don't think you're in on a rock by yourself. No man is an island, and it's not, you can't do it alone. And just remember, if it looks like that's what your progress is, your progress actually looks like that. When you take a step back and you look at everything, don't look at everything right in the face. Take a step back and look at everything from a broader perspective. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.